All right, so this might be the most valuable juicing video you'll watch because to get your hands on all of these juicers would cost you over $2,300. But today you get to see the best Hurom juicers in action for free. We're going to compare the Hurom H400 versus the H320 versus the H70 versus the H310, which means I'm about to save you $2,300 worth of testing and 32 hours of research in the next 8 minutes. Let's start with the hoppers. Hurom doesn't list the hopper sizes for the H400, the H70, and the H310. After running some tests, these are roughly the sizes of each. The H400 has about a 70-ounce hopper, good for making 2 to 3 cups of juice at one time. The H70 hopper is around 50 to 55 ounces, letting you make about 1.5 to 2 cups at once. The H320 is about a 70-ounce hopper, which is 2 to 3 cups, and the H310 is around 30 to 35 ounces, good for batches of 1 to 2 cups of juice. Now, each of these hoppers has a set of blades which do the prep work for you. The blades sweep the produce into the cutout at the bottom. The H400 and the H310 cutouts sometimes struggle to catch the produce, but on the H70 model, Hurom improved the design by adding more ridges. The H320 uses a normal juicing screen and auger, and other companies still use the same exact technology. You'll get less pulp in your glass, but the trade-off is that it's going to be a pain to clean. Now, the question is how much of a pain to clean? Well, we'll find out later in the video. The H400, the H320, and the H310 are part of Hurom's Easy Clean lineup. Here's how they work. Each of these juicers comes with an auger that pulls apart. There's no juicing screen, so you literally just spray the parts with some water and then you're done. No scrubbing necessary. What happens is the produce gets pressed against the auger and the pulp stays on the outside and the juice flows in through small slits. Now, these slits aren't as small as the holes on a normal juicing screen, which means you're going to get a little bit more pulp in your glass, but you're able to clean your juicer lightning fast, taking less than 1 minute. Now, personally, I don't mind this because you can get more insoluble fiber in your diet, and studies have shown that whole fiber can help you live longer and prevent things like cancer. Okay, underneath each of these juicing chambers is a drawbridge-like mechanism. This flips open and helps you rinse out any stuck pulp. All 4 machines come with a forward and reverse setting in case your fruits or vegetables get clogged. The Hurom H310 uses a turn knob, while the rest of the machines use button rockers to control the motor. Speaking of motors, did you know that they produce heat? And heat can damage the nutrients inside your juice. The H400 spins out 90 rotations per minute, the H320 spins at 50, the H70 spins at 60, and the H310 spins at 43. Now, people get hung up on the specs and think that the lower the RPMs, the better, but in the low 40 to 90 RPM range, the difference is too small to notice. The amount of current flowing through the coils, the load that you put on the machine with your fruits and vegetables, how long it's running for, and even the ambient temperature of your room will also have an effect on the motor heat. Now, the H400, H70, and H310 can make sorbets without any additional attachments, which is pretty cool. But with the H320, you'll need to buy a separate strainer. Each of these Hurom juicers comes with its own kind of trade-off in terms of portability and space. The H400 is 14.8 pounds, the H320 is 13.7 pounds, the H70 is 14.8 pounds, and the H310 is 12.1 pounds. Now, the H320 is by far the most portable. You'll have no problem sticking it inside your backpack and taking it with you on the go. But the H400 and H70, they weigh about the same, with the H70 having a smaller footprint. Out of the 4 machines, I think that the H70 strikes the best balance between portability and functionality. And if you're an early bird or a night owl, you want to pay attention to this next part because your average blender is about 100 decibels loud. And after rigorously testing all of these machines, the quietest has to be the Hurom H310. It's only 53 decibels, while the H400 and the H320 are around 60 to 64 decibels max. The H70 is going to be a little bit louder, coming in at 68 decibels. But in those ranges, you're not going to have to worry about waking up your cranky partner, crying baby, or kids. And before we jump into the juice yields, I'll leave a link in the description for each of these juicers where you can get the best discount. All right, now let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about how expensive groceries are? That's why it's important now more than ever to buy an efficient juicer, one that's going to help you squeeze out every last drop of juice. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of these to the test to show you which one gives the best juice yield. Sadly, I don't have the H310 with me right now, but I've got 2 other videos on the channel where you can check out all the information about that. And if you want a little spoiler, the H310 will give you a decent yield, but it does make a more pulpier drink than the other 3, and the motor is not as strong, so sometimes it's prone to getting clogged. Now, to start, I weighed out equal parts carrots and oranges for all of these machines. I'll go ahead and load up each of these juicers. Now, let's flip the switch on all of them. One thing that happens sometimes when you back batch juice is you get produce caught on the blades. The cool part about these machines is that when you lift the lids, the motors actually shut off. Once the motors are off, you can take your produce and sort of push it into the hole on the bottom to speed things up. Now, I'm just going to give each of these a tip to make sure we're getting all the juice. So let's start with the pulp. The pulp on the H70 was bone dry. I couldn't even squeeze out one drop. Next up is the H400. And again, I couldn't squeeze out one drop from this pulp either. And let's take a look at the H320. So same thing here. Now let's pour each of these into a glass. We'll start with the H70. That came out to 198 milliliters. Let's check out the H320. H320 gave us 199 milliliters. And now let's look at the H400. We got 195 milliliters. So that's pretty crazy. The H320 and the H70 were released in the US after the H400. So it kind of makes sense why they would beat the H400 slightly in terms of yield and efficiency. Now, Hurom had more time to improve these machines. So there you go. Next, I want to show you the difference in the pulp strainer. We'll start with the H400. I'll pour that into a sieve and let it do its thing. So it does come out a little bit on the pulpy side due to the easy clean auger I was mentioning earlier. And I'm just going to put that in a bowl so we can compare it later. Next, let's check out the H70. I have a feeling it's going to make a similar amount of pulp, but let's find out. Looks like I'm wrong on this one. So I think Hurom made the H70 auger strainer more fine so that you get less pulp. If we look at the H320, you can already see that it has less pulp than the other two, but when you compare it to the H70, it's not that much. Now, here's a comparison of the three bowls so you can get a better look. And if you're anything like me and you hate cleaning your juicer, think about how it would feel when you're standing there with your back bent, hand shaking while trying to scoop out the pulp out of small crevices. If you miss any spots, your juicer can grow all kinds of nasty mold and bacteria. And I wish I could tell you that all of these juicers were perfect to clean, but the truth is only one of these was absolutely flawless. And can you guess which one it is? Let's start with the H320. There's no easy clean tech here, so it just uses a normal juicing screen and auger. It comes with a set of rubber wipers that can prevent pulp from getting stuck in these tiny little juicing holes, but it's not perfect. Most of the time you can rinse the juicing screen, but depending on your juice, you may need to scrub it, especially if you're gonna go for things like celery. Now, you'll find pulp gets stuck on the inside and the outside parts of the screen. There's also this tiny hole where the pulp gets stuck and you'll need to poke it with a cleaning brush. Now, make sure you pay attention to this next part because you can get some nasty mold and smells coming from your juicer. There's actually a circular opening underneath the auger, and 9 times out of 10, you'll need to take your cleaning brush, the tip of it, and just scoop around in a circular motion to rinse it out. All right, so with the H400, you've got easy clean technology built in. The pulp tray is built into the back of the machine and the ejector is a little bit stubby. It doesn't like extend all the way through into the pulp container. So sometimes what can happen is you'll get a little bit of pulp on sort of that outside cutout of the machine, which isn't a big deal. You can just wipe it with a paper towel. Now, the H70 and the H310 don't have this issue because their pulp ejectors stick out more. On all the machines, you're gonna have that drawbridge mechanism that you can just pop open and rinse out the pulp. They also come with these tabs that are removable, which you can pull on. So the benefit of this is that it helps you clean the juicing chamber faster. But on the H310 model, the orange piece of rubber sort of sits really tight to the juicer. So you kind of need to pull on that more and get sort of like in that crevice. But some of the newer machines actually have the pulp tab further away from the part. So most of the time the pulp will just slide right out. And here's a side-by-side comparison of how fast you can clean each of these. The Hurom H70, then the H310, then the H400, and finally the H320. The evolution of this easy clean technology sort of blows my mind here. You can clearly see that Hurom was working on the H70 to make it even better than its previous models like the H400 and the H310. And they worked out all these little microscopic details to improve like the yield and also the pulp filter. Personally, the H70 is now my new favorite. You can batch with it. It's not too big and it's super easy to clean. You can clearly see the improvements, but it's not going to be as good at straining as the H320, but it's better at straining than the H400. So it kind of strikes a nice sweet spot or balance. And no matter which one you choose, I'll leave links in the description below where you can get the best discounts.